I'm Kate.
I'm Serena.
And we're the library ladies.
This is our first review.
Yeah.
Clearly we don't know what we're doing.
Nope.
What we're going to do is going to be a spoiler-filled review because we just can't talk about this movie without getting into some of the spoilers.
All the feels.
Right.
What we're covering today is Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, causing a lot of controversy amongst lots of different people. It's about 2 years after Man of Steel left off, a little bit of a flashback. Essentially, Superman has been doing good, but the world's starting to get a little bit on him. He's kind of iffy. He's doing things that have consequences that others didn't really think about. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne, or Batman as he's known amongst...
Or not known.
Or Batman is starting to get a little more paranoid about Superman, about like, oh, he's this guy who has all this power and he's clearly bad, so I gotta stop him or spy on him. And so it's sort of these two superheroes, like big titans in DC, sort of coming together and having a good old-fashioned punch-out. Yeah, Mike Tyson's punch-out, basically.
Both of us are DC fans, so we both have that background going into it. We are also both Superman fans.
Yay!
So we need some... It's going to probably be a little biased towards Superman.
It's going to happen.
But there's a lot of Batman fanboys out there, so I think he'll be okay without us.
Yeah, I know a couple of guys who are big Batman fanboys too, so
they got that area covered.
He's fine.
Right. So most of my background, I've read a couple of the comics. I can't remember the titles of them right now because it all gets really confusing with like the Silver Age and the Golden Age and like where all the different universes cross over.
Final Crisis, Infinite Crisis.
Right. But my true fangirl heart goes to the early 90s, Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman.
Yes! The best!
Yes. So that was probably where my love of Superman really started, and it's just kind of grown from there.
It's true. Yeah, for me too. I also grew up watching Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman, Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane, and then you have Dean Cain as Superman, or as I call him, the one true Superman. In terms of Batman, I grew up on Michael Keaton ones. I'm very much Michael Keaton, Tim Burton, Batman fangirl. But I had like Batman sheets. I had Batman pajamas. My sister had Robin pajamas. We'd run around the house pretending we were Batman and Robin. I literally had a Catwoman Trapper Keeper.
Oh, Trapper Keepers.
Yes, so that's dated me a little bit.
Yikes.
The thing I think has been making the most positive splash is the introduction of Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I don't have as much background on Wonder Woman.
I don't either. I knew she was a thing, so I was excited going into this movie to see how they were going to introduce her. Yeah. And especially with they already know that they're going to make a Wonder Woman movie. Yeah. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it is really exciting. We saw it last weekend. Yep. Went together, and we'd gone in just like we don't even know what to expect.
We were nervous.
Yeah. Critics literally called it a dumpster fire. Right. But I had heard pretty good things from people in my personal life. I mean, overall, it was fine. I mean, I had issues with it, but it wasn't like the disaster that everyone.
It's at like a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's just insane.
It
was fine.
Yeah.
It was good enough.
Okay, so I liked, of course, Wonder Woman. I think that she had the best introduction that Wonder Woman could ever have. She shows up at a party, and she's looking all sexy. Bruce Wayne's like, oh, a girl, and she's just like, I'm not really that interested.
She's just kind of already a thing. Like, there's not much of an introduction. She's just kind of there, doing her thing, doesn't need them, doesn't really care about them. She's got her own little plan, her own little mission.
And she does not care about those two, which was cool. And I really liked her. She has this kick-ass, like, rock theme when she's in the Wonder Woman outfit. Like, at that moment in the theater, I was just like, oh my god, it's happening. Yes. And that was when it really did sort of, like, went from, this is okay, to, okay. I'm invested. Yeah. When's the Wonder Woman movie?
Unfortunately, that was about 2/3 into the movie.
The last third was really solid, and I thought that Ben Affleck did a fine job as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, he was a good Batman. I liked, of course, Cavill. Is that it?
Henry Cavill?
Yeah, Henry Cavill. Yeah, I really liked him. I mean, he's a good Superman. He's such a sad Superman, but it's...
I know, but you can't really blame him for that. That's the way he was written. As an actor, I feel like he does a really good job.
Oh, yeah.
He's being asked to do.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, that's nothing against Cal. I thought I did a very good job. It was just so...
dour.
He's just such a sad Superman.
You can't even blame him, though. If you look at this movie, it's like left and right. His day gets worse and worse.
It's just like, why don't you even get up today? Actually, it kind of reminded me of Ghostbusters 2, where after the first Ghostbusters done, everyone's like, oh man, that's great, you saved us. And then the second one, it's like, well, but actually right after that, they're like, hey, dicks. This is basically Ghostbusters 2 for poor Superman.
lot of the same things. I loved Wonder Woman. I have no critiques for her at all. When she shows up and they're actually in the fight sequence, she's amazing. Like Kate said, that score for her is really great. Her theme song is just so fun. You're just like watching it and getting excited, which is just so needed at the point where it comes to that you're just waiting.
Oh, thank God.
You're waiting for it. And then with that, the last third of the movie was really good. It actually made me more upset because it was so good. That, like, why was I having to sit through this first 2/3 of this movie? This is what you could have done. You have so much material to work with. There's so many things that they threw into this movie. It's not like they don't have enough material. Yeah. Why did we have to even go through this? We could have just had this amazing kick-ass movie. For sure. It was just disappointing because it even further highlighted how unthrilled I was with the first 2/3. I really liked Lois. I think that was going to be a challenge, trying to figure out something for her to do in a movie like this where you have so many different characters. But they did a pretty good job. I've heard some critics say that they thought that she was a little bit too much of a damsel in distress, which maybe you could make that case, but at the same time, I feel like most of the times when she was, it was also because she was out there pursuing her goal, as a reporter. So maybe she was going to get herself in trouble, but she was still there for a reason.
I think that it wasn't just for the sake of, and now he has to save her again. I think in most of the points where she was in danger, it did progress the plot to where it needed to be.
The plot. Yeah. The film looked very nice. Yes. The score was very good. The effects are very good. These are the kind of things that if you look at it objectively, there's no way it can be a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. It's just not a bad movie quality-wise when you have good actors, good score, good cinematography.
Yeah. I agree with that. Of course, there are things that we didn't like.
So moving on to things we did not like.
Oh, gosh. I get what they were trying to do with Luthor. I get that they were like, what if Luthor was actually one of those weird millennial CEOs? What if he's just Mark Zuckerberg, but evil, too?
Right. Yeah. He was much more menacing when they did shave his head towards the end of the movie.
That's true!
It was like, just shave that
really
head.
Scary looking, actually. I was just like, oh my God. Yeah. I think that the problem also is that there have been so many great Lex Luthors. I mean, you had Gene Hackman in the original Christopher Reeve movies, and he was really good. My personal favorite, John Shea.
Oh, yes.
From Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. They're gonna be
That's more because she has a crush on him.
I do, and I'm not even sorry. I'm not apologizing at all. Well, and even Smallville's Lex was really good.
Yeah. I think this is almost a little bit part of the problem I had with Jesse Eisenberg was he seemed so much younger. Both Superman and Batman, that it just was not credible in some weird way. Like, obviously you don't have to be the same age or be older to be a credible threat. But it was off-putting in a way. Like, he seemed like a child on a grown-up's playground.
He should have been more like Jimmy Olsen. Like, hey guys, I got this picture. I'm awkward. He inherits this company from his dad, and now he's like, woo. But...
got God complex.
Yeah, exactly.
And not the normal one. He's got like a fear of God complex.
It's true. He does.
I think that's his motivation. His motivation's very unclear.
No, I didn't understand what... Oh,
everyone's motivation.
There's a cat. Living up to stereotypes everywhere. But yeah, what was his motivation? What was his problem?
That's the best I could find.
Yes, I have more dislikes. So I don't like... And I'm accepting it, that DC is going dark and gritty. I don't like that DC's going dark and gritty, so I think that's just more me and not really a fault of the movie, but I don't like the dark and gritty tones that they were doing. And then there's these weird, disconnected scenes.
Dream sequences.
So, okay, yes, dream sequences. So there's...
within dream sequences.
Yes, and it's just like, it's an inception of dream sequences. And the one that just made me go, what the F, was when Batman... is dreaming of this, like, Mad Max Fury Road dystopic future of, like, sand is taken over, like, all of the water's gone, whatever city it is, I don't know, and then he's kidnapped by Superman foot soldiers. Like, they're foot soldiers with the Superman insignia, right, where, you know, the swastika would be. It's this, and then they're like moth creatures flying from the sky. I'm like, okay, well, this is just like a doomsday prepper's nightmare right here. It was like Batman was a doomsday prepper who was convinced that if Superman's here, we're losing all of our civil liberties, and the Doom Squad with the Superman insignia is gonna turn it into like the desert world or something. I don't understand why he's not this crazy. Like, he's crazy.
It would have to be a crazy person, because usually your dreams are based on things in life that you're actually seeing.
Right.
To some extent, and this was just so creatively insane.
It's just like, as I said, he'd watched too much, like, Beyond Thunderdome or something, and we just needed, like, Tina Turner to show up and start singing We Don't Need Another Hero. That would be great.
Gosh, somebody needs to make that.
Dear Zack Snyder, this is what you need to do for the next one. Trust us.
We gotta figure it out.
Yeah.
A lot of mine had to do with the fight itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so frustrated that they even made this a versus movie, considering what the fight was that we actually got.
True.
It took like 2/3 of the movie to even get to the fight. And by the time we do, you don't know why they're fighting.
Yeah.
Superman has literally no motivation to be fighting Batman. He doesn't want to. Like, he's been kind of set into the situation where, like, Alexis captured his mother, and he's, like, saying, you need to fight Batman, or else.
Bring me Batman's head, or I barbecue your mom,
But it became really clear, like, in the very beginning, which anyone could figure out, like, you know, Superman could take out Batman just floating in the air and, like, laser eye him, but he doesn't want to. So it's not a matter of, like, who is fighting on equal ground. Yeah. Superman literally doesn't want to fight Batman. Yeah. And he's, like, being forced into it. Yeah. And it's not actually, like, so there's no actual fight
There's no motivation to fight outside of an external thing that doesn't even mean there's, like, rage.
There's rage, but it's like, so Superman would have just taken him out if he actually wanted to fight him. He just didn't actually want to fight him. Yeah. That was weird. And then at that point you have Batman, who has become, as Kate said, a crazy person. And has, like, mowed people down with, like, machine guns, and, like, it's grand. I mean, it's the point where you're like, it's great. This makes no sense. Your whole reasoning of fighting Superman is because he's this evil character, and yet you're committing, like, evil atrocities.
Things that you wouldn't normally do.
Right. And Batman's superpower essentially is supposed to be being brilliant and being an amazing detective. Yeah. And so the fact that he's, like, so easily manipulated into getting in the situation. Yeah. And the fact that he has all the hypocrisy just makes it, like, really hard to buy into Batman. Yeah. And that is really upsetting, because I really like Ben Affleck, and I liked, like, what he was doing with the character. Yeah. It just, so you get to this fight, and, like, I don't like one guy, and the other guy has no reason to be here. Sure. And then they fight. Yeah, well, it's just... There's, like, 2 punches from Superman, and then it's just Batman, like, literally whipping him into concrete walls. Well, nothing working out for him.
Any breaks.
His mom's been kidnapped. Lois just got thrown off a building. He doesn't want to be there. And now he's, like, getting beaten on, like, by Batman.
Literal senatorial hearings discussing... Hey, Superman, good or horrible?
It was just awful. So you just feel so bad for him that I was actually uncomfortable. Like, I felt like I was watching a bully, like, kicking another kid on the playground. Yeah. Like, that's not, like, a, like, fun fight. That's, like, just, like, beating up another person. And I, like, ugh.
Man, Clark Kent could not catch any breaks in this movie.
Right. So that was just really too bad. I guess some of the other things would be just... Another reason maybe why I liked the last third of the movie was it became very linear in the storytelling.
Yeah, no, that's true.
They hit their stride, and things just kind of happened in a way that made sense. Before that, it's very choppy. Like, you'd be chopping from Batman to Superman to Lex to Senator to, like...
To Wonder Woman
sometimes. And then they would actually cut it in the middle of conversations, and then cut back to the conversation. And it was just really hard to latch on to any of these stories because there's just so much in there. Doomsday was actually better than I thought it was
liked the fact that it was Doomsday, actually. Yeah. And it didn't really occur to me that, hey, there actually has to be another antagonist that they're going to be fighting to come together. It's not going to be Lex, let's be real. So I liked that it was Doomsday, and I liked how they made Doomsday.
Right, yeah, they had a creative way of getting him there. Yeah. The other thing is, I think we were all kind of excited to see some of the other DC characters, and I personally felt a little let down by the way they did it. I kind of wanted them to show up at least a little, and it was just kind of lazy. I felt it was a little bit lazy. It's just like, oh, we're going to click on this file, and we'll see it was like little teaser trailers that they just inserted in their movie for their sequel. They kind of got the Flash, though.
They did get the Flash
without doing
Well, that was weird, too.
Dream sequence.
I don't even understand. I don't know. I also don't want to go back to the fight, because, it's like, why didn't you just, like, hold up your hands and say, hey...
He's got my mom.
I really got attacked to you. Just let me say something first.
And, like, he tried a couple times, but still, like, you could still fly. And it was 8 minutes. It was, like, 8 minutes long.
It was 8 minutes long.
And it's just, like, this is just... Why is this in the title? Like, part of the thing I was wanting to talk about outside of our likes or dislikes has been the evolution of how this movie came to be.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Like, it was originally going to be a Man of Steel 2. Mm-hmm. Then they added Batman, I think because they were frantically trying to figure out why Man of Steel wasn't very successful. I thought it was better than it did, even.
I'd agree with that.
But so they're like, oh, well, it's that Batman, that's going to solve everything. Right, so then they tacked on Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
And the whole thing just got so bogged down that I didn't even know what it wanted to be, that by the time they came out of this, it shouldn't have been Batman versus Superman, because you have an 8-minute fight that's not fun to watch. It's just not that enjoyable. And you had a really cool fight with Doomsday. Like, it was just, you could have just taken it out. There could have still been tension there with, like, Batman and Superman trying to figure out each other and doing all that stuff. There's just no reason for them to actually fight, because it was just so silly.
Yeah. When even Alfred is kind of, like, you know, passive-aggressively calling out, because Alfred, you kind of messed everything up. Like, you didn't get this kid some serious therapy when he was little, and like talking about bats a lot, I'm sure. The fact that Jeremy Irons
did a really good job.
Did a really good job of just being the passive aggressive, like, well, Mr. Wayne, I feel like you're sort of going pump the brakes, essentially.
At one point you would say, it's like, I thought we didn't do that.
Oh yeah.
Well, Batman was like, you know.
Well, I guess what?
Rolling people over with his Batman.
Yeah. I mean, literally branding people with like the bat symbol. One thing that I really, really, really want to talk about is the fact that they were so sensitive about the casualties thing from the first movie.
You could just see, like, the, like, mental tics going on, like, the whole time.
Oh my god.
Like, oh my gosh, we need to avoid that. We can't have them, saying the mass casualty thing.
And why? First of all, I don't even understand why people got so up in arms about that. I mean, if you're like, oh, Superman doesn't hurt people, it's like, okay, but, like, collateral damage is just something that happens.
And it does happen in other superhero movies. This isn't the first time we've seen this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there were actually buildings top billing in the Avengers.
Right.
And you can't just say that you had one scene of, like, Captain America saying we need to evacuate the building.
Right.
And somehow that's...
There's literally, like, what, 5 of them? 6 of them?
Right. There's one Superman. He doesn't have time to go...
Yeah.
Get out of the building, I'm going to go back to fighting crime.
Right. That is Batman's motivation at first, where it must have been, like, Wayne Enterprises in Metropolis. Right. Is one of the buildings that gets knocked down, and, you know, his employees either die or they get really hurt, and then, of course, icing on the cake, there's a little girl whose parents were killed, and so it's like, they took the criticism and anger of all the people who were like, how dare Superman killed all these people, and put it into Ben Affleck's Batman, like, he was the rage personified.
Idea. I kind of get that. It was just the last one he started mowing people down himself.
Yeah, for sure. But then later, when the Doomsday fight was going to happen, I think we counted 3 separate occasions of them, like, emphasizing.
Someone saying, oh, it's, like, after
work hours,
so no one's going to be
there right now. Minimal casualties. That building is deserted right now, and then the dock at this time of night, no one's going to be there. It's just like, oh my god!
We get it.
We get it.
It's very on the nose.
So funny.
There was not much subtlety.
Overall, we thought it was fine.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. Yeah. It was frustrating. Some things that we talked about, like the fight, I found frustrating. And then the fact that the last third was actually so good. I really did like that. And then maybe you just wish the whole movie had
Can we talk about the end a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Sobbing.
Right.
I was sobbing.
Poor Superman.
And then...
Horrible time, then death.
And then you die. Woo!
I mean, I guess that's one of the things that if you had been reading the comics, then you maybe have seen coming, because they did show in one of the previews the Doomsday little guy. And it didn't say it was Doomsday, but it's kind of obviously Doomsday. And he does kill Superman.
That was the Death of Superman arc, was Doomsday. I
guess if you really knew comics, you see that coming. And it was very sad.
It didn't matter, because I saw it coming, and I was still like, no!
Right. And some people, like, criticized the movie for not committing to it, but there's, like, the very last, like, 2 seconds, like, the dirt starts rising off the tomb or whatever.
Like, for, like, 0.5 seconds.
So minimal. And at that point, we all know he's coming back anyway.
Like, duh!
It doesn't matter if I see that dust rising or I don't see the dust rising.
Right.
I think we know that.
And you're not gonna have a Justice League movie without Superman, in whatever form it's gonna be. If he comes back and is having issues like he did.
Not. I know. He needs some good things to happen.
I know. We need a happy Superman for a bit. But it's like, but duh, of course he's coming back.
So I don't know. That's where, like, the Glower tone, like, worked well.
It did.
But
that worked out really well, actually.
Maybe not the whole movie, just that part.
No. So overall,
it
was fine.
Fun movie. I mean, I think sadly, it's had quite a drop in sales.
It did.
If you haven't seen it, I think you should.
If you're curious,
it's worth seeing in a theater.
Yeah, I think it is.
One of those theater movies where it's going to be enhanced by having that big screen.
Or at the very least, see it for Wonder Woman, because she was great.
She was.
Since we're, librarians, we thought that we would also give you some book recommendations based on around sort of like this whole Superman, superheroes, Batman kind of thing. The first one that I came up with was the original Batman versus Superman fight, or like the definitive one, The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. I actually don't particularly care for this one that much, but it is very, very influential. It really was a big influence in comics in the 1980s. This and Watchmen, they were sort of the ones that brought in this whole idea of sort of like darker, sort of edgier comic books. And this does have like, actually there were a lot of things in the movie I think that kind of harken back to this fight, and it's the definitive one. Second one that I came up with was The Secret History of Wonder Woman by Joe Lepore. And basically it's nonfiction, but it talks about the origins of Wonder Woman, the man who created her, the women that influenced him in his creation of her. Spoiler alert, it was his wife and then his live-in girlfriend. It was sort of like a polygamous kind of relationship. They had children together and they all sort of raised each other. And his girlfriend, she actually had the bracelets.
Mine are both novels. One is Lois Lane, Fallout by Gwenda Vaughn. Lois, I think actually one of my main reasons for liking Superman so much is because I liked Lois so much. She's the kind of the definitive superhero's girlfriend in that she, not only is probably one of the oldest, but she also had so much more to her. Like she had her own comic at one point. She just has a lot more gumption and all kinds more storylines. And this is a young adult version of that, which is really fun. She has moved to a new school. She's going to new schools all the time, and she's kind of seeing there's some weirdness going on with a select group at this high school, and she's going to use her burgeoning investigative skills to figure out what's going on with the help of her online friend.
Oh my god.
He might be from Smallville, something.
It's like Smallville boy. Oh my god.
He might be from Kansas and have certain powers, but they have not met. They've got a really sweet I am relationship.
It's precious.
It's very adorable. And the other one I'm recommending is one that's not based on a comic of any kind, but it is about superheroes. And it's by one of my favorite authors, Brandon Sanderson. This is another young adult book. It's called Steelheart. It's the first in a trilogy. And it's about a boy named David who lives in a world where superheroes kind of just came onto the scene about 10 years ago, and they're bad. They're pretty much just regular people who don't really have any motivation to be good necessarily. Maybe a couple of them are not awful people, but they're just kind of selfish people with powers. And a couple of them, Steelheart specifically, is a very all-powerful superhero who David has a personal vendetta against. So it's kind of like what the world would be like if people had powers, but they weren't necessarily out for the good of humanity.
Sure.
And how would you deal with that? So,
okay.
Those are my recommendations.
All right, so I guess that's it for our Batman versus Superman review. We'll do this more, I think, as more movies come out or other things. We can always find other reasons to talk with each other and all that.
Right. So, leave a comment if you have any opinions on the movie and you've seen it.
Follow us at Library Ladies MN. And, thanks so much for watching.
Thanks.
And go see this movie. It's really not that bad.